Like, can you say when you put it live? Oh, it's now. Wait, now streaming live. I'm gonna check if we're now.
Yeah.
My God, this is amazing. This is ridiculous.
We're in
Hi, internet.
We're live.
First time live.
We're live on YouTube.
Okay, so a month ago, we met to talk about this idea of release 3-year mocks. So on our operations section page, we have this 3-year target for what we want release to be. And out of that discussion, originally back in like June or something, we came up with 2 flows that we thought would be really good. The first flow is like deployment approvals. And then the second flow, or another one of the flows, is deployment template plans. So both you, Hannah, and Dimitri worked on these flows, and you've come up with really great click-through prototypes. So this meeting will be used to walk through those flows, and then we'll recap some next steps for us to go through. Sound good? I'll pass it to you, Hannah, to start, or to Dimitri, either one.
Dimitri, you want me to start? I'll start with flow B, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right with me.
I don't think in this case it matters that much the order. Let me share my screen. Then I think you can see yourself for a minute. There you go. Right. The prototype is clickable, so let me just go full screen that we can review the flow from the beginning. All right, cool. I don't have the notes here next to me, so if I'm saying something that differs from what this flow actually does, it's because I don't have a reference. But here, the first page starts with a notification, an email notification. So the user receives an alert or a request to approve an existing or deployment. So the pre-deployment in this case is pending approval for GitLab 13.4 on stage pre-production. So user has the option to see which project, choose the branch, check the commit author, and then either approve or reject. So when you click on this button, you're taken to a view on GitLab. In this case, you go to a runbook for the release. So here you see all the steps for this release. And I think I couldn't do this with the prototype, but ideally you would scroll to the section where you have to approve this deployment. So in this case, you have 2 pre-deployments here, pending and 1 approved. The user has the option to click to see the view app, and that's going to take you to a specific view, or approve or reject them directly from this. Yeah. Hey, Audit.
Hi, sorry, I thought this was at 30. Sorry.
No worries. I'm just going over the flow B on approving pre-deployments for a release. So when I click on the view app, I'm taken to the view app, of course. So in this case, the project is GitLab. And then there's a notification here on top that maybe we can even think about later on changing the color, making a little bit more, pop a little bit more. So the user knows that they are looking at a deployment for a specific deployment, and then you have the option to approve or reject. On this flow, if I click approve, I have to give a reason for approving. On this modal, I click approve, I'm taken to a merge request that was created for that specific deployment. So information here is the same as we saw last time, pre-approved deployment by, the comment is seen here, and then the pipeline is running. There are a couple of other options on this prototype, if I figure out how to get to them, where the user starts, instead of approving here directly, you have the option to reject. So if I reject from this page, for example, I see the same modal, give the option, you go to your deployment, and you see that the pipeline did not run. Or if I am on the view app and there is a feature flag enabled, when clicking approve or reject, the user has to give a sign off in a sense of, do you want to enable or disable this feature flag with your approval of the deployment. So in this case, you click approve, you approve and disable, and then the feature flag is disabled here. I think that's it for the flow A. Oh, sorry, for the flow B. The only additions that I made here were adding some actions when the user rejects a deployment. So you have the option to, if you click here, you might be able to send a notification, send a message, send this to someone. And I think, let me go back. There is one thing here in the flow. It's not here. I'll show you. It's actually, because this one is not clickable, is the Slack notification. So you get a Slack message in a group chat, or you get the email. So you can do this. You can start the flow from here as well. That's it for the flow A. So I'll pass it over to you.
This was so cool. Thanks, Hayana.
Let's move into the other flow. Let me share my screen and let me take a look. Too many screens open at the same time. So flow A is about deployments, auto rollbacks, and fixing the templates for those deployments. So for those runbooks. The template stuff is in progress, but the rest of the flow I can show, where we begin with like an email notification for the auto rollback, which is in progress. So let's jump right in. This one. I don't think you can see it right now because it opened in the wrong view. Let me see. Now we should be able to see it.
Yeah, see.
Give me a second. All right, so here we are at the email notification that someone gets when there is an automatic rollback happen because of an incident. You can see what has happened. For example, this is for the environment production, what the current deployment is, what the rollback deployment is, and here you can kind of jump into the details. So you can go view the environment or view the alert directly, but for this demo, we're going to go into view environments. So here we have a different view than what is currently in the application for an environment. So here we can see all the deployments for that environment. And the idea here is that we can see, hey, which deployments have been rolled back, and can I highlight that above all others? So we can see, hey, where are the critical incidents happening, which triggered this kind of rollback. Here we can see there's an active deployment here, currently at the left top corner, and there are some kind of like some interesting details to jump into for the deployment that has been rolled back. So for example, we can see here, this has been rolled back automatically. So let's click on that and we can see, all right. Hey.
Wait, Dimitri, can I stop you for a minute?
Sure.
The number here next to the auto rollback triggered, is that going to be the rollback, the ID of the current deployment, or to the one that it's going to be rolled back to?
Sorry, about which one are you talking about? Like,
so there's a caution auto rollback triggered, and there's a number next to it.
You mean this thing or this?
This, yeah, that one.
That's a good question. Oh, let me see. Auto rollback trigger. This should point towards the release that follows it up. So the one that is where it is rolled back to. In this case, I see this ID is still the same, but it should point to the one that is currently active, or at least has replaced the rollback that was rolled
all
back
the same
to.
number. So there isn't.
Yeah, so these should be edited.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that when I was reviewing. Proceed.
All right, let's jump on. So when you are looking at this and there is a runbook available, you can jump into that runbook and see why and how the rollout of a release is progressing. This is kind of relying on like a template that is still to come. But we can at least see here kind of like what happens in a runbook for a certain release. So there's been certain stages already passed, and currently we are in the rollback remediation phase, where we can see that, hey, there's been critical incidents happened, there's some issues been created, and we can even acknowledge them here. For example, like this, we can say, hey, please state your reasoning and confirm your acknowledgement there. A little extra note here is that we can also see, hey, why did this rollback happen and how can we edit this? And I think this is pretty interesting. We can immediately go towards the rollback settings, which are in the settings of the project. We can say, hey, we have chosen for an automatic rollback method, which enables this kind of like table, which you are allowed to state your rules for rollback. So in this case, for critical incidents, we roll automatically back to the last successful deployment. This is something we can elaborate on and kind of, progress on in terms of like what is available in functionality. And I think this is kind of interesting to see like, hey, how many rollbacks have happened since it has been created, and some metadata that might make a lot of sense. So to go back to the earlier page, we also have some Slack notifications, which means like, hey, if there is a Slack notification, we can see that, and I don't have the notes with me here as well, we can see, hey, a certain issue has been created for a certain incident to resolve that rollback, which in this case is this additional Slack notification. To go back a little bit earlier, I want to show another Slack notification as well. So I'm going to go to the first slide, view the environment, and then click here as well. We can see at the same time that the previous view is going on, we can see, hey, a deployment has been rolled back automatically. So this is like the stage before the other Slack screen, which I showed, which additionally kind of showed like, hey, what are we doing about this rollback now that we know about it and that we're going to resolve this kind of incident. Let me see, just to go back to the original view, there's one more thing to show here, which is there are automatically issues created, which can also be seen from the deployments view directly. We can click on it. We can immediately say, hey, these issues are important. Let's assign an assignee or a milestone to it, which makes it that much more actionable right within the context where you need it. That is kind of it, unless I'm mistaken. So let me do a brief view of the vision markups here. And I think we've had it all here. We have the acknowledgements and the settings view. Yes, so that was flow A. The thing that's still to be added is to edit the runbook template and kind of make that part of this flow, which allows us to kind of, define those rules within the runbook itself instead of referring back to the project settings. And that's it. I'm going to stop my sharing of my screen.
That was awesome. And Dimitri, I think what we're going to have to do with the runbook is update the UI that you had with the life cycle. I think that, right? I think that's what you mentioned.
Sorry, with the life cycle? Yeah,
the part where you, when you click to go to the rollback and you have some life cycle steps, we replaced that UI with the runbook.
I think I know what you mean, but let's get back on that after the meeting.
Yeah.
Then back to Jackie.
Yeah, so I added a couple comments. There's one typo on that same life cycle page, rollback versus rollback. Double L. But otherwise, I'm very impressed with this. I think it's highly actionable. It captured the high level thoughts that we talked to you about. So I'm really excited and impressed by this vision here. Ori, do you have any other topics while we have time here if you wanted to work through with Dimitri?
No, I thought this was awesome. I was also really happy to see that you incorporated those new comments that I added in like no time. So you brought us back to the settings to see the definitions of the auto rollback, because that may be something that you're constantly auto rollbacking and you might want to fine tune that. So I thought that was really awesome. Well done, both of you.
So from a next step perspective, Ori, I think you and I have a one-on-one on our calendar. We can talk through how we want to position this in like a recording to present and distribute to the field and sales team. And then I've already opened up an MR to embed these prototypes as an iframe into our release section. So I think that would be a really cool, accessible way for people to just see all the work that Hayana and Dimitri have done. And they're clickable, so the people would be able to interact with them. I think that's a really great way to tangibly show sales some things that we're going toward.
I love that. I love making the design assets like the end deliverable. I just like, let's clean up that file maybe, Dimitri, a little bit before. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, we should do some cleanup also to make it a little bit more clear how the flow inside of the work file is going, because what I've done for prototype A or flow A is that for the Slack notification, there's not a direct link where you go towards Slack, because these things are kind of happening in parallel. You can click anywhere in the view and it will take you to this absolutely like new context. And then when you click that again, you go back to the original view, kind of like to be able to jump through to that in the clickable prototype, a little bit more intuitive. At least that's how I was thinking about it.
Because the Figma has something like a sitemap that you can, when you're actually looking at the prototypes. I don't think so, eh? When you, no, because maybe we can just put like an index and say these are the pages, and then people can either navigate by clicking or just, you know, see the list.
Yeah, you can click from left to right to go through all the pages, but it is slightly different. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Since you're still working on, right? You have some updates to do. I'll do that. I'll make this the general updates, so we can wrap it up. Julio.
Yeah, and a bit of a request towards Jackie and Orit on the pages that have not yet been created. Coming back from out of office, I was looking a little bit at it, like, what was this exactly again? I need a little bit more context. So perhaps if you view that step and can either explain right now what kind of like thing you're expecting, or do a small recording of yourself, like, hey, these are my expectations for this view. I expect from this view to go into that view because of these and these reasons. And then we can kind of, I can kind of ideate a lot more quicker with that than only the text that has now been written down, which is kind of abstract in certain ways. So
this would be the deployment template machine that I think Ori is in your vision. It's separate from a run book. It would be like, I could envision this being, since we have time in this meeting, I think we can try to cover this off here. I can envision it being like a bunch of pick lists to allow people to pick different resources, and then the output is a YAML file that they get to copy paste into their project. But I'll let Ori kind of.
It's very similar to what you mentioned. So it's actually something that I worked with Dove on this week from Verify. So it like gives you little snippets that you can just cut and paste. So it could be a full template, a full GitLab YAML template, but it could also be just like a small little Docker image that does a little job. So you can like choose from a list what you want to do, if it's deploy to AWS, or if it's, I don't know, create some kind of container, whatever. Little different small things that you can just reuse and put into your YAML file really easily and do something with it.
So would this be related towards the visual GitLab CI editor that CI is working on?
Maybe. I don't know if it's that extensive, because the YAML editor, from what I understand, is supposed to be like dragging different bits and pieces, you know, to create a full file. This may be just something that we want to add on top of this specific flow. So I wouldn't go back to the editor in that sense. I would just like add a piece.
And I could also see this being really focused on enabling like review apps inside of your project, or adding the release generation step. So if we're really like narrowing in on all the YAML activities in the release stage, I could see it's enabling deploy freezes, easily enabling. So instead of people having to go to the CI/CD examples and copy paste, that's already built into the the front end of GitLab. So they're just copying, pasting that snippet into their YAML file. Or even better, if we could say, add this to my target YAML file, and it allows them to select the project and the YAML file from this view. So then again, we're like appending that extra step, just like Ori was saying. I would want us to like narrow in on the release YAML functionality in this step.
It sounds very doable. It reminds me a bit of like what GitHub is doing with
Actions.
yeah, with actions, where you have predefined YAML snippets which accept variables, etc., to kind of personalize it and make it accepted within your own YAML or configuration. Sounds good.
I actually think that if we could add that as part of the runbook, that could be really interesting, Jackie. So like you have steps in the runbook and that just automatically does everything for you. So you decide you have to have a review app, and right, because we have like different approval stages, but maybe also building up the entire pipeline could be part of the runbook.
I love your idea there. And I think it goes really well with Hyona's display, which is like, it's a plan step. And then it says build YAML file, and then you execute like that little snippet as a part of that stage from that same runbook view. Completely agree. So here's a flow to be really explicit here. I would have a single screen that shows the mechanics by which you would add an attribute. So you could use release generation from the YAML file, or deploy freezes or review apps, any of those as an option. And then add a section or a visualization on this view for import YAML file to project selector, and then maybe a checkbox that says add to my runbook template. And then your click through on that checkbox, it pulls into the runbook template as a step inside of the plan phase of a runbook, and it adds that little snippet. It says for a review app, for example. So if we want to like really dig in here, I think we should talk about enabling a review app from this view, given that that's like a part of this whole continuous delivery. It's cloud native. It fits in with our greater story.
I actually like to take it even a step further. So you're talking a lot about the plan or even the beginning of the pipeline. What if we could even add like the really nice functionalities like advanced deployments, canary incremental rollout, and have like part of the runbook be like, okay, I need to get a feedback loop. I start the rollout at 10%. Now I want to view, the metrics, and it could be automatic, but it can also be a manual approval where you say, okay, now expand this to 20%, to 30%. So like having that also as part of the runbook that like automatically increases the audience that's getting this functionality and this deployment.
Yeah, like the distribution is the distribution rules are described within the runbook and can be activated on with like a single click. Like, all right, this threshold has been crossed. The runbook states like 40%. We can either say like, all right, we'll automatically do that, or there's some manual acknowledgement needed to get to that next step.
So I think that could be a really cool part for that deployment builder machine screen, like showing that you're enabling canary incremental rollout in that deployment builder. And then that's what gets copy pasted into the YAML file, but also is a discrete step inside the deployment plan. I think that that's a really great use case and can show what you were asking for, Dimitri, was the explicit screen and then the next step for that. So I think that's perfect.
Yeah, this sounds good. I can work with this. It's kind of nice to have one more view, which is kind of new from all the others, and kind of showcases that vision that much better, right?
And I love that we're touching on all aspects of the 3-year vision, which is like this advanced deployment perspective, because we have feature flags and we have runbooks included in there and in the other flow. I think this one covers the whole advanced deployment and CD life that we haven't really dug into. So I think that's really good to have this. All right. Well, I'll let you all let us know when your prototypes are updated before I merge the change to the handbook, because that way we're not merging something that's in flight and making it public before we're ready for it. And then
I think in the spirit of iteration, Jackie, we could probably put this out there. Even, I mean, fix the typos, but even before we add all these additional things, because I think in the spirit of iteration, it will definitely show the direction anyway, and I think that people would really appreciate it.
yeah, I'm not sure how the embed code works.
It's dynamic. So
Okay,
if I
perfect.
make changes, it will live update it within the embedded functionality.
Then I'm perfectly fine merging it forward. That's great. I just didn't want to merge it and then have to update the embed if they made changes and the embed code changed. Because then it would break and people would be like, I can't see it. You know, that was my worry.
One of the nice things of Figma, they really outdid themselves with how they structured their application.
Love it.
Yeah,
It's
and I'm looking here at the review app, Jackie.
I brought my model to show her shirt.
Get clever. We're hiring. I think the only thing I would ask for the embed is that I'm not sure why they're like full screen. Maybe we can just see if they can start from a specific page, because they just show two different things on the review app, like this.
What do you mean?
Like this. That's how they show right now. They start from, this one starts from this view and this one starts like this. And it's not so usable.
You can go into your into the prototype settings in your Figma document, and there you can select. Let me see. Show prototype. There's a device section at the top where you can select like a custom size or presentation or none.
Okay, awesome. Let's do that. So it looks okay. People are not scared by it. Cool.
Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been super useful.
That's awesome. Thank you, everybody.
You did a great job, guys. Thank you so much. Not guys, because you're not allowed to say guys.
People.